Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, doing well. Was just waiting to hop on
Nice.
here with you. Was getting some stuff settled, stuff like that.
Nice. Oops, sorry, my music just came on. There we go.
Oh, no problem.
So do you prefer Fred?
Freddie, Fred, doesn't matter. Flamingo Fred, doesn't matter.
Where are you from?
I'm from San Francisco
All right.
originally. I'm from San Francisco, but I'm in Southern Oregon right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
awesome.
only about 5 hours from home, but I mean it feels further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of a world away when you're talking the West Coast.
yeah, most definitely. Where you located at?
I'm in Seattle.
That's what I thought.
It just turned rainy this afternoon, which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I've been dealing with that down here. So we're gonna get started on the show. It really doesn't matter. I shoot the shit kind of just like, everyday stuff anyway, but
Okay.
just, to do it. So I'm Flamingo Fred. This is the Bird of Paradise podcast hosted, sponsored by Folded Waffle. And you can go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and things like that.
Okay. I'm Connor Desai. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania, originally,
Mm,
and I've been in Seattle for about 20 years now.
okay, about 20 years. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
How do you have, I mean, how was Allentown when you're there? I've never been there, but I have a couple of social media people I think that are from there. That's how I know about it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because well, at least when I was there, it had kind of small town vibes and just like rural. I mean, we knew how to get into some trouble in high school just because there wasn't a lot going on.
Mhm.
But it's grown a lot since then. And there's kind of like the Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton. Bethlehem has all the old steel factories, and my grandfather used to work there, and my dad too. So we have a
Oh
lot of
wow.
roots there. Um, yeah, it was fun. We It was a good place to grow up.
Yeah, how was like you said you went to high school there?
Yeah, I went to a public school called Saucon Valley High School, and it was pretty small. It was like surrounded by farms, and it was just every time you came out of school, it was just like bass everywhere.
Hmm.
That was the scene. There was a good wrestling team we were known for. There's a college around there too, Lehigh University. So if you had a friend there, you could kind of get up to some trouble at the frats over there.
Yeah, that was my next question is like I went to school in the city, so I'm like, when you're in a small town, I know every high school has to party or hang out or, there's college and stuff like that. I was curious to what you guys did out there for fun after school or, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, oh gosh, I don't know, Freddie, how deep you want to get into it, but I was not the best. Like my own kids are way better than I was in high school. We could get away with so much. Like there was no one tracking us. There were no cell phones.
Hmm.
There were no like maybe a friend had a pager, but like other than that, you could just lie your ass off and like have somebody pretend to be a parent.
Some, yeah.
Someone's, Connor's sleeping over here, and we just did that kind of stuff all the time, and it was not great. And I shudder to think about some of the drive, like how people were driving, taking whippets and driving, and like all that stuff was happening in
Yeah.
high school. And it's, I think I like to think it's a little bit safer world. Now, I mean, now there's the whole social media landmine, but what are you gonna do?
It's like I tell people this often. My grandmother had a huge part in raising me. My grandmother, and as a kid growing up, getting to high school or whatever, and kind of in your mind, I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously, but you kind of like, Grandma, you don't know what's going on, or even
Yeah.
your parent, like you don't know what's going on. Like it's almost like you think to yourself that you know more than your parents or your grandparents. You know more than them. You know what I mean? Not knowing that they were doing it before you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that kind of goes into it, and you think, you can get away with stuff. What do you think has influenced you with music the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, okay, so my mom was uh she actually dropped out of college to tour with a band for 2 years. She was in the first like official Christian rock band, which is
Hmm.
pretty interesting. You could look them up. I think they have a Wikipedia page. They were called the Sons of Thunder. And it was pretty cool because they traveled all over the US and they had to keep, it was like 12 members. It was one of the only integrated bands at the time. So that was awesome for her to be a part of that. But she pretty much dropped out of music entirely once she had kids. Like I'm one of 5 kids. So she
Mm.
was just like so busy. And, but every time we were in the car, she'd like be like, oh, listen, the best part of the song is the tambourine. Listen to this guy go crazy on the tambourine, like, or
Hmm.
out some weird random harmony. And I would notice like that's not the melody, but it's going with the song. So just as a kid, just random times in the car would just absorb like her musical sensibilities. And it wasn't anything official, but it just really piqued my
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, I can relate to that totally because my father, you didn't think about it at the time, but my father, I'm an artist myself, and my father played a lot of music, a lot of oldies, a lot of Motown, a lot of oldies, a lot of rap, and stuff like that. And you're kind of just soaking it in, soaking it in, soaking it in, and that influences you.
Yeah, it really does. What kind of Motown did you guys listen to? What were your favorites?
Um, I don't know if all were Motown. I'm gonna tell you this. A lot of the artist names I had to learn after the fact because this was in the era that dad was just playing it. But I know we listened to a lot of the Temptations, Shy Lights. Um, of course, we listened to a lot of Snoop, which I know is in Motown, but that was like when Snoop was coming out. But I mean, a lot of the oldies. I know there was some Diana Ross in there, and a bunch of different things like that. I mean, Pops played everything. Earth, Wind, and Fire. A lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff like that.
Yeah, my mom used to wake us up to Let's Groove. Like it was that hard to wake up 5 kids in the morning for school, so she would actually bring the boombox into our hallway and just crank it. And then how do you stay in bed when Let's Groove is playing?
Yeah, I know my dad. It was like Sunday mornings. He used to cook breakfast, because my dad. It was us and just the boys. For a while, I had an older brother and I had a younger brother. I was kind of middle child. So Sunday came, pops turned on those loud speakers, and breakfast was cooking. And you got to get up.
You do.
You know what I
I
mean?
you're the middle of 3 boys. I'm the middle of 3 girls. That's
Oh, okay.
interesting.
You know what I mean? So, who, if you could work with someone right now, if you could pick anybody to work with, who would you work with?
Oh man. Uh, that's tricky. Um, well, hmm. I mean, do they have to be alive? I
No, we could do whatever we want. They don't have to be alive. Everyone always asks are they alive or dead? Because I think we have more respect for the dead.
think so. Well, I guess they earn their stripes in a way. They came
Yeah.
before us. I just got introduced to a Canadian jazz artist named Eddie Hayward.
Mm,
My husband, I don't know if you ever heard of him. I think he was kind of blacklisted here because he's African American or he's African Canadian. And my
hmm.
husband found him. My husband is the one who like curates all the music in our house, which is great. And so he's always kind of like unearthing these random gems. And so I've been listening to this guy, and it kind of blows my mind that we didn't get to have his music as a
Oh, oh,
culture.
so yeah. Why do you think he was blacklisted?
Well, I think I mean, we did have some Black musicians that we were listening to, but I don't know if it was
Mhm.
just because he was Canadian, but or at the time when he started playing, it was just not as hospitable an environment for his music. But you got to check out a Canadian Sunset. It's just like, and you can actually hear him. So he's this phenomenal piano player, like on level with like Art Tatum almost, just like
Mhm.
incredible. But you can hear in the recording him, it's somebody is like cannot stop themselves from singing along to the melody of this song. And I don't know if it's him. I like to think it's him. I have no idea. But it just, there's something about that rawness of somebody just not being able to help themselves while listening to his music and the type of jazz that he played. And he plays standards and stuff too. And I'm a math teacher on the side. I'm a middle school math teacher. That's like,
Oh,
yeah. That's why I'm having a cocktail. It's the end of my trimester today, Freddie, and it was a hell of a day. So cheers.
hey, nothing wrong with that. Cheers. I would have grabbed something if I knew. Is your husband black?
He is Indian. His parents
Okay.
here from India.
Okay.
So he definitely, when you were talking about how your grandma like had no idea what was going on with you, that's how he grew up. Like he was like,
Okay.
Mom and Dad, you don't even know we're supposed to have a turkey and we're supposed to, like he was constantly coming home and telling them like this is how it is here. And they were like trying to
Yeah.
keep
No,
uh
that's so cool. I was just curious because he's digging through, the music and finding black Canadian jazz musicians and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I was just curious.
yeah, well, I think that's related, right? He's just kind of like we have been listening to white jazz musicians, which I mean, to be honest, white people did not originate jazz, so it's kind of weird to like listen to a lot of white jazz musicians. So he was like digging around, like what else is out there. So
Yeah, I mean, music is a beautiful thing. I will say this though, as a person that has struggled with math, you know what I mean? My whole life, I always felt like, I'm a creative. I create music, so math and creative doesn't go together. So it's very interesting to me that like you're very creative, makes some beautiful music, and you teach math.
thanks, Freddie. I appreciate that. I sucked at math so badly as a child and a high schooler and a college student. I assiduously
There, there's hope.
but I like got into it when I started becoming a teacher. I was like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense and it's beautiful. And our whole number system is like this incredible global achievement of like all these different cultures coming together to agree to represent numbers in this way. Nobody talks about that to kids. They're just like, look
Hmm.
at this. If you don't, you're not smart. I mean, it's ridiculous. But that's part of what the draw was with Eddie Hayward, because I was like, wow, like the way he was playing math, the way he was playing music brought to mind like a lot of different kind of math algorithms. He's like technical but creative. I don't know. He's walking a really fine line and no one does it like he does. So I would love to work with him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What genre would you classify yourself as, or if any?
Shit, that's hard. I I try not to get too, you know, into one genre just because it's boring and I get tired of it. And I've kind of been trying to push different edges of myself into different genres, but I would have to admit that it's folk based just because
Mm,
I'm reaching for something to start the act of composing. It's my guitar, but I like to try to, move out of that a little bit. And this track um, that I just released, I think is is starting there. Like it's so cool that you guys wanted to talk to me about it. I was like, yay, like this is
yeah.
fun.
So what inspired it?
Mm. Oh my God, how hard marriage is. Um, I think it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. I think we have, again, like this really bad binary situation where, you know, we're like, oh, it's either a good relationship or a bad relationship. And no, like that's so damaging. And I think you know, I've been married for over 20 years. It's the
Mm.
most I learn the most from my marriage, and it's also the hardest fucking thing in my life. Like the amount of friction, and like my husband and I are both like very opinionated individuals about pretty much everything. And
Yeah.
while I respect his opinion a lot, it's not often in line with mine, and it's so hard. It's so hard, and no one talks about it. And so I guess I wanted to really create a little space that could own like that we as a species are like, if we're trying to be in intimate relationships with each other, it's going to be the hardest thing that you do. It just is. Like that distance increases the closer you get to somebody, and
Yeah.
that's tough.
Is he a huge supporter of your music career?
Yeah, he uh actually last night he was like telling me that this song wasn't danceable enough and that I really need to make something poppier, and like he was playing all these tracks that like he just like shoots straight with me all the time. He likes the song. He's also like, you need to do something like this. Like he also supports my music in the like huge stream of songs that he curates and plays in the house. Like I don't I feel like that's been my influence, like
Mm-hmm.
spirit artist that he's digging up. And that's an incredible benefit of living with him. But it's also tough, you know, like I can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna go take off and record. Like we have 3 kids, we have like all this shit going on. So it's like it's very much like get your shit done and then maybe you can have some time for this.
No, most definitely. You know, it's being a musician and you know, stuff like that and having a relationship, you know, when people see you and you're doing great things, you know, and they're like, "Oh, cool, this guy," you know, you attract people to want to be with you, but sometimes people don't understand what being a creative, you know, entails, you know what I mean? You can't always just say, "Oh, I'm going to record or make music at this time," you know? You kind of got to operate of when something hits you and then go with that. And that also goes into genres like we are speaking about before, because I have been struggling myself, like what genre I'm in, because I came up in hip hop, but I've been kind of getting into like funk and different things like that. And I'm like, turn on the mic last night. I was making beats and I'm like, what do I want to make? What do I want to make? I'm lost. And I reverted back to just making some hip hop when I've been telling myself just to do something psychedelic funky. But I'm like, I got to stop having this battle with myself and just create.
Yeah, that's super well expressed. I totally agree. And you can't, and I I love the idea that you don't get to choose when the inspiration strikes. So you're just gonna have to take that time. And the same goes for, you know, whatever avenue your creativity is choosing that day. Like you could have the idea, like you just said, I'm gonna try some psychedelic shit. And maybe just the mental action of thinking in that vein is going to inform whatever hip hop thing you ended up doing. Like you can't, like it's such a hard thing to pin down creativity you're not supposed to pin it down. That's not like
Most
the
definitely.
nature of it.
Yeah,
So
most
I love
definitely.
that.
And I mean, it's been such a battle with myself, and I'm just like, my buddy Verseborn had sent me something before. We came up making music together with Conquest, and there's an artist known as Russ, and he had this thing where he was releasing a song every week. But one of the main points he made, yeah, I was releasing a song every week, but these songs didn't sound the same every week. You know, they had a different flavor each week, and I'm like, I'm diverse enough to come with a completely different flavor each week. Why should I try to categorize that or whatever? But it is a struggle. It's almost like having multiple personalities.
Yeah, I hear that. I definitely hear that. I think a song every week is really ambitious. That would be hard.
No, most definitely. It is some work. What advice would you give to new artists?
Hmm, man. Oh, I guess, I spent a long time without knowing if anybody was hearing what I was playing at all. Like it just, I mean, I knew obviously like close friends and family, but it takes a long time sometimes. And there are examples of one of my musical heroes is Connie Converse. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she was in New York City in the 50s and the early 50s.
Mhm.
And she like now that people have found her tapes, like she made these mixtapes, like she made a song of the month club, and her brother was the only subscriber. So I know it's crazy. She's like a Van Gogh, right? And so they found these tapes of hers, and she's amazing. Like her lyrics are amazing, and her musical sensibility is amazing. And she was basically doing what Dylan ended up doing, but before Dylan. So she's kind of people are starting to recognize her as this like originator of like the singer songwriter genre. But she never got any recognition in her lifetime, and then she disappeared in the 70s and she's never been found. So she's probably dead because she'd be like 97. Um, but I think about that example of just like, you don't know when the thing that you created is going to strike a nerve with other people. It's not your job to figure that out. It is your job to be a channel for these creative forces and just trust that somewhere, somehow, your creative product is going to prick the universe. It's going to add some energy to the universe that
Hmm.
what needs to be there. And you don't get to decide what the outcome looks like. You just get to be the creator, which is such a gift. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, and I will have to, look her up. I mean, the main thing, different people want different things out of this. I never wanted to be a megastar. I like being underground. I just want to leave my legacy and have, a couple people around the world that can identify with me and understand me. You know what I mean? That's what I always am shooting for. I don't want to be super celebrity because I feel like that is just a mess.
Doesn't it look awful? It looks fucking awful. I'm sorry, but I was just listening to a podcast today that was talking about Matthew Perry, rest.
Hmm.
But like he ended up being in this place where he like couldn't really exist outside his house. Like, and that's like the blessing and the curse of like, of course you want to become some beloved figure, but then your life is so compromised. And I couldn't agree more with you, Freddie. Like in my
Yeah,
20s, I want to be some
like
big.
I get like I get the taste for something and I want to run out to the store real fast and I have TMZ popping out the bushes tracking me down. That would piss me off.
Your quality of life would suck so bad that your friend would be like, do you want to come to the show with me? And you'd be like, I fucking can't unless I bring some crazy entourage and like put a bucket over my head. Like you would not have spontaneity. You would not have a quality of life anything like what we enjoy. I totally agree.
No, not at all. What is it that you're drinking? It looks good.
It's tequila. That's my drink of choice.
Okay, yeah. Tequila's good, but I try to save tequila for the warmer weather.
Uh, it does go hand in hand with warm weather pretty well, but I don't know. In Seattle, we have to make our own warm weather. So,
Yeah, I don't know, like this like you become a, you know, when you're coming up and you're drinking, it's like whatever. Now with my adult life, it's like tequila and light liquors are for like summertime, and this is just me. Then as it gets colder, especially now that I'm here in Southern Oregon with all this snow and cold weather, that like is like I start drinking like dark liquor and hot toddies. I don't know if you're familiar with a hot toddy, you know what I mean? But hot toddy is like whiskey, it's
Yeah.
like a tea with liquor.
It's so good. So
It's
it
great.
definitely keeps the chill away. Yeah, the whiskey and the lemon and that. Yeah, my husband's all about whiskey. Most of my family, my sisters, who are like my best friends, they're also whiskey drinkers. It's too sweet for me. I'm not a sweet. This is
Yeah.
just tequila, lime, and a little soda. I can't do the sugar and the alcohol. Just can't do it.
No, most definitely. I agree with that because that sugar, I might be doing some little tequila or something like this. I've been trying to cut that sugar back. You know what I mean? In general. Is there any messages or shout outs you want to give?
Oh shit. Yeah, so my kids, I have two, so I have uh I just did a little CD or single release party in my house. It was great. I was like, I could, book out a place, or I could just have people come over to my house, which is what I did about 10 days ago. And I had my two kids, I have twins, uh,
Mm,
16. One plays piano, my daughter, my son plays drums, and they played with me. And we have played together a few times, but they're actually pretty good. And it was so great. And I would like to continue to play with them. So I want to shout them out. And also I have an older daughter who's in college and she just turned 21, and I want to shout her out because she's been a huge supporter of all my creative endeavors, which has been great
yeah,
because I had her when I was 22. So she kind of grew up with me a
mhm.
little bit. It's awesome that she is so supportive.
No, that's a beautiful thing. We'd have to connect more in the future and, you know, chat again and maybe make some music one day and, you know, do something different, you know. But I enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, this was awesome. I would love to hear. Well, I'll look up your music, but yeah, I am super into doing like vocal pads and different shit like that. So that'd be really fun to see if we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, most definitely. So I'll probably follow you on the socials. And one last thing, where can everybody hear your music just so we can get the message out?
Oh, cool. And any streaming place, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all the streams.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's good talking to you until next time. I'm going to connect with you at another time and everybody's going to bump your music and we're going to get this out there.
Thanks, Freddie. It's so good to meet you. This was super fun. Perfect end to my trimester.
Most definitely. All right. Cheers. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.